welcome to A Girl, a Guy, and a Buffy podcast. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Charles Swint.
And I'm your other host, Kate Balzer.
We are two friends who have been watching Buffy since the beginning. Now, we are not a rewatch podcast. We explore the big bad themes of the show, and this podcast is full of spoilery goodness. So if you have not watched the entire series and you don't want to be spoiled, press pause now.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Kate.
How you doing?
Fantastic.
Excellent. So we're continuing our season 4 conversation, season 4 of our series on power, control, and consequences. So we're delving into the magic of it all today. So, Charles, was magic the most irresponsibly used power in Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
done. Bye.
Done. We're done. Answer. Yeah.
So tell me why.
So here's the thing. Like, there are so many reasons why it was so irresponsibly used. And I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm usually not on the side of the Watchers, but I am going to sit over here or the side of Principal Snyder or Moo or any of these organizations that came up. And it's clear the books are necessary. The books that Giles has in the library are necessary, especially when you're looking at the earlier seasons of the show. They need them to do the research and all of that stuff. Do they need to be out on the shelves for any student to check out? No, they don't. You could have had those books anywhere else and still had them available for you to do the research. They didn't need to be there. You're sitting on a Hellmouth. You know that there's like mystical energies coming out. You're in an age where you know that internet is coming into play. Jenny's online. She's a techno-pagan, so she's looking up spells online. She's researching magics online and things like that. We scanned Malcolm into the internet. There's a lot of things that it's like realm of technology. Magic is like sort of cross happening. It's not just living in the books. And the fact that no one is setting up any sort of precautions, it's not like, hey, the only people who really should be checking out these books or looking at these books are the Scooby Gang because we're doing this. But I don't think that that's necessarily the case. And I could be wrong, so correct me if I am wrong. But I think other students do check out these books. Other students have access to them. And even so, Willow, so when you look at Gingerbread, you know Amy's a witch. You know, so Michael's a witch. You know that there are students practicing magic. Willow takes a book from Giles and then like gives that information to these other students too. So that information is being filtered through a supposedly trusted source. So why are they not containing that information more than they should be? And so sometimes when the council comes in, they're a little heavy-handed, but I also agree. It's the same thing when he goes into the magic box. When they come to the magic box and checkpoint, like he's like, most of this stuff is harmless. It's incense, it's candles, whatever. But there's some stuff in here that is really dangerous. Why would you be selling that to people that you don't know when you live on a Hellmouth? It feels like a very, very gross incompetence and feels very irresponsible to me.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at all of the negative consequences and negative actions that people who practice magic took in the series, I mean, it certainly outweighs in a lot of ways anything that a Slayer did.
Yeah.
And other people involved in the supernatural world. It seems like the greatest consequences always happen with magic, and it seems to be because it was the most unregulated. People were the most untrained, unsupervised. I agree with you. It is weird that a library that's just supposed to be a regular high school library has so much supernatural stuff in it. Actually, I was just thinking I couldn't believe they didn't do more episodes where like a student checks out some sort of magic book. That's the episode storyline, the consequences of that. At least if they were going to have those, and why didn't Giles use it to monitor who was taking stuff out? I could see that. But yeah, otherwise, there was just such like gross negligence in nobody watching over Willow, nobody saying she needed training and guidance. And like Giles had his own experience. I mean, we've talked about this before. I understand it's not necessarily directly in Giles's purview or his responsibility, but he's certainly well connected, whether through the council or through a coven, to get Willow training, especially when multiple times that she does very selfish magic. After the something blue, my will be done spell, that really like I can't believe Giles did not do anything. And he's also not working at the time.
Right.
He
It's
has like plenty of time. He should have been taking her under his wing or finding her a magic tutor or making her part of a coven. Like she had so much to learn. It's just ridiculous that there weren't any checks and balances on magic users.
she was approached by Dahafren
Oh,
after
yeah,
that
yeah,
spell. She caused so much chaos that Dahafren was like, you, I want you.
yeah. Yeah, that her pain was like felt across dimensions.
Right.
Yeah,
And Giles is like, yeah, whatever, it's fine. Why is there not like a weekly class? Why is she not,
yeah,
meeting with Giles once a week or something like that to like go through, hey, what spell are you working on this week? Okay, let's
right.
talk about what this is and have conversations about it.
Well, and the number of times that everyone kind of blew it off is like, oh, Willow's so responsible. She's not really going to do anything terrible. Okay, morons. Look where we end up.
But she keeps doing things that are irresponsible.
Yeah,
She continues to do things that are irresponsible, and it's proven over and over again that her magic is unstable.
yeah,
And so just because she's good at school doesn't mean that necessarily applies. And it's just, yeah, it drives me crazy that there is no checks and balances. And quite frankly, outside of the students, outside of any other student in Sunnydale, a lot of the magic that goes wrong is because of them. They cast spells, they
hmm
do things that cause havoc and wreak chaos and do all this other stuff. Again, unsupervised. You talk about Doppelgangland, you talk about Something Blue, you talk about Tabula Rasa. There's so many instances of Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered.
hmm
There's so many instances, once more with Feeling, where they just randomly cast a spell because they think that this is what they need to do, and everything goes awry. Why are we not talking about this more? I would be like, none of you are allowed to look at the magic books anymore. You can research only, you are no longer allowed to without supervision because
yeah.
I don't trust you because at least once a month y'all cast a spell that causes problems. Triangle.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, I mean, part of the problem is because after the first couple of times Willow messes up and there's no real consequences other than she feels guilty, why would she stop? Nobody's there to tell her to stop. Nobody's there. There's no authority there to get her help or get her training or take away her powers when she is too often out of control and using magic in an inappropriate way. But also, Willow is fully self-taught. Like
Yeah.
that is not something you should be self-taught in. And a counter to that is actually Jenny and Tara. Because even Willow says, like, oh, Jenny never practiced, but she wrote spells because when they find the ensoulment spell in Becoming Part One. And we know that Tara has been trained by her mother. She knows the right way to use magic and she uses it responsibly. And even Jenny does it in a responsible way. And she's part of a group, whether they technically call themselves a coven or not, I don't remember, but they have people that they can connect with. When Willow tries to in college, they're obviously more like a bunch of like college girls just playing at being Wicca
Yeah.
and not real witchcraft in terms of what we see in the show. So yeah, like why would Willow stop? There's no one there to stop her.
Right. And that person should be Giles. And I just think that that person should be Giles. Like
Yeah.
he knows what Willow is doing. He's seen her time and time again. She makes offhanded comments all the time about spells that she's practicing and things that she's doing. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And she's
hmm
like, "Well, I mean, oh, look at me. I'm just like helpless Willow." But he should be like, "Okay, listen. If you're going to continue on this, then we need to get you some help, proper help and some guidance on this so that you don't go off the deep end." And as someone who has gone off the deep end and done something foolish,
Yeah.
maybe that would be the way to go.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is you can't really put the burden of policing magic users on the Slayer because most of the time they're going to be human. And,
Right.
Slayer's not supposed to go after human. But the world is complicated and humans are involved in magic, get involved in things that are evil and bad for the world. So, like, why isn't there someone looking out for that? That is something the Watchers Council could be doing. They could have like some sort of system set up, basically a supernatural court,
A Ministry
like
of Magic, if
a
you
Ministry of Magic. Hell yeah. Worlds merge. But yeah, I mean, it makes no sense. I don't know that I fully trust the Watchers Council either, but it would make more sense and more use of their time
hmm
if they were doing that. And maybe they do it in conjunction with covens that are partners, magic practitioners that are reliable and well trained, and not just leave it in the hands of the council. That's a lot to put on the Slayer if she has to deal with magic users and she's not supposed to kill them. And I'm not saying I would want her to, but why is there nothing in place to deal with that? Because obviously magic can be incredibly out of control.
I mean, and what she ends up doing basically is like with other magic users, and to your point, like the thing is that there is no consequence for the magic users
Mhm.
because when we see it, if you look at Amy, once they switch Amy back from her mom and all of that stuff, and once they know that she's still doing magic, they're like, well, it's harmless magic, and so it's fine until it gets to a point. But apparently, she's at some point in high school has gone to see Rack a
Mhm.
few times. So she's delving into something that's a little bit more dangerous, and maybe they don't know about that. So that's fine. But when you look at Tucker raising the Hellhounds, he gets apprehended, but we don't see what happens to him after
Yeah.
that. Does he get sent to jail for what? Like, what
Train
is the
these vicious
charge?
quote unquote dogs to go
Yeah,
after people at the prom. Yeah.
yeah, there's no charge for that. And so when you start, Ethan Rain gets away every
Mhm.
time. Like all the magic users,
Other than the initiative.
yeah, basically escape capture
Yeah.
because what is Buffy supposed to do with them? Other than stop the spell, reverse it, and that's about as far as she can go. She can't stop them because they're all human. And to your point, like that's a really good point. She can't do anything.
Yeah.
So there should be something else that polices magic users and that helps either maybe not punish, but maybe punish or rehabilitate like they did with Willow, or maybe for people who are too far gone need something else. But in a mystical world, it feels like, why would you not? And I know the world is not, it's supposed to be about vampires and demons, but so
Right.
many of the stories heavily rely on magic. And
Yeah.
especially when we get into the later seasons, like everything is
Magic.
about magic. Like it becomes like the center point
Right.
of the show.
Which is why some people argue, does Willow become the bigger power in the
Right.
series than
Yeah.
Buffy? Which you could probably definitely make that case for.
hmm
There's a lot of evidence for, but it doesn't necessarily mean she's the hero.
Right.
Just because she has more power than Buffy, like more actual magical power. But at least there should be some sort of monitoring system at the Hellmouth, because
hmm
it certainly seems like it's worse at the Hellmouth. I mean, maybe all this stuff isn't going on a daily or monthly or yearly basis in other parts of the world, but it definitely is at the Hellmouth. So, like, why are you not monitoring the Hellmouth and have some sort of system in place, Watchers Council, or is there a coven nearby that could be doing the work as well? Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah. None of it does.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about this in terms of Willow. I mean, for all the horrible things that Willow does, like I love her storyline. Like it's a fascinating character arc.
hmm
But I was thinking about this in rewatching some of the episodes pertinent to her storyline, that I wonder, I mean, for Willow, it's kind of like Faith. There's similarities in there in that she felt powerless, and when she got the magic, it overtook her because it gave her what she thought she needed to be powerful. But I wonder if she would have fully gone down that path if she hadn't done that first spell of the re-ensoulment and the way it went, and the fact that she was possessed and she did it on
Mm,
the Hellmouth, and that she did it, it's a curse. So it's negative magic, it's
yeah.
black magic versus learning white magic like Terra and small spells, and you
Hmm.
build up to those powers. If her path would have been different.
And there are some fan theories out there too about that Insolment spell and her doing it. And again, her being on the Hellmouth and her doing that. And also like she had a concussion at the time of that happening. And so like from what we know from everything that they've said about your emotions have to be regulated, you need to have like a clear mind and all of that stuff. How much of Willow's path gets changed
Mhm.
because she did a huge spell that she was, not really ready for, technically,
Yeah.
but does it out of necessity because she has to. But she's also like hurt. What's the impact of that on Willow? And I think maybe what we see is that whether or not that all of those things sort of impacted her, but what we do see is that at what, 16 years old or whatever, she does this huge spell and has huge power flowing through her. And I can see where, yeah, that is kind of like a drug. And it's like, oh, well, if I can do that, what else can I do?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is they keep turning to Willow as she develops her magic. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, Willow, you can do this. Oh, Willow, you can do this. Oh, Willow, do this for me. Oh, Willow, you're my big gun. And yet, unlike Buffy, she's not trained. At
Hmm.
least, even though Buffy gets the same burden on her by Giles and the Watchers Council, at least Giles is training her. But Willow never gets that. And also to bring back to a point about why is there not a system in place? I mean, we get that offhanded question and checkpoint as we you brought up in our pre-show discussion that they ask Willow and Tara what level they're at and where they're registered. It's like, I'm sorry, what?
So there's clearly something.
Right. So like why is that system not being used to monitor magic users? And I
Right.
don't mean it in a draconian 1984 way. But you do, this is a serious thing that has incredible consequences for the world.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have a slayer out there monitoring what demons and vampires are up to, it seems to me you ought to have someone out there monitoring what magic users are up to who could also start an apocalypse.
Right. And they clearly can and
Right.
often do and try
Right.
to do over and over again.
Yeah.
It all feels very, very irresponsible. One of the things that doesn't sort of land or is a little inconsistent is that anybody can do magic,
Hmm.
apparently, but not everybody can do magic. I think this might be the writing, but like the inconsistencies of like Xander being able to cast a spell to summon a demon that invokes the power of the song versus Willow doing something and she can't get it right or it doesn't work at all,
Yeah.
but she's supposed to be this powerful witch, but she can't work simple spells. Maybe the spells that she's working are not as simple. Like having your will done is probably not a super simple spell.
Right.
Um, but I would also think that although Jonathan and Andrew are summoning demons, so
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and then there's, the joke. I forgot what episode in season 4, but where like Riley's learning about magic and Xander's like, yeah, it's not like you can just read this out loud and something will happen. And he reads it and the flame comes out.
right.
And Giles is like, stop reading the books out loud,
Right,
Xander.
stop speaking Latin in front
Let
of the books.
books. That's it. Stop speaking Latin in front of the books. And
Just
it's like,
because you read the
right.
words and it doesn't mean that the spell. So there is some
Yeah.
inconsistency in
Yeah.
storytelling in there for comedic sake.
Right. Well, I mean, I can understand, like you said, I can understand varying spells being harder or easier, and maybe a summoning a demon, or especially being on the Hellmouth, like maybe that's feeding it, or maybe that makes it harder. Like maybe it complicates the spell because you have to like deal with the dark energies of the Hellmouth. So I get that, but a little world building would be nice. A little bit of like internal logic would be nice, and not
Hmm.
just always about the emotional storytelling.
Right. When you think about Jonathan and Superstar, like he completely changes
Yeah.
reality
Yeah.
for everybody for a little bit, but what's his consequence?
Right. And that's why, like, again, it's like Willow. There's no consequence. He doesn't have to go to like magic detention
Which
and
they
like
should have done.
they should have done
And maybe he
100%.
wouldn't have been a part of the trio.
And that's what I was going to say. Then it wouldn't have led him to fall in with Warren and Andrew. But that's true of Andrew. Like, if anyone had actually known that he summoned the flying monkeys at the school play, well, then he should have been punished for that.
Yeah.
And again, maybe he could have gotten help in training and he wouldn't have fallen in with Warren.
And maybe even not training, but like deterrent or maybe training or options. I don't know. There are lots of ways to have to go with that. I think there's a lot of holes in that
Yeah,
situation. And again, it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So like, we're
right.
dealing with sort of the emotional beats of vampires and demons, but you've added the forces of darkness and you've made it a huge plot point that a lot of these forces of darkness are human beings who
Hmm.
were practicing magic. So why would you not start, even if you weren't starting off that way, even if that wasn't like where everything started, but maybe you start to see that these things are happening, why would you not start like putting these things into place? And I feel like we don't see it until season 7 because it's somebody that we know. It's one of the
Yes.
core four. And so now it becomes important that the magic has created something that has changed someone that we love and care for.
Right.
And so now we need to start setting up these systems in place as opposed to doing it before, A, to keep the people that we love and care for safe and protected, but B, so that it doesn't get to the point where Willow wants to destroy the world
Yeah, exactly.
when she goes after Glory and she like sucks.
Mm.
Like there's so many times where it's like, and they're like, Willow, stop, don't do it. And then she goes and does it anyway. But then everybody is like, but you're the responsible one. She has shown you time and time again how irresponsible she really, really is. And that crack starts with Doppelganger Land. Old reliable, and she's saying, that's not me, that's not who I am. And I think
Yeah.
that that's sort of the first crack, really, of Willow being, I am not this responsible person that you all think that I am. And I think what happens is that no one is listening to Willow and her cries for help and
Yeah.
all of those things. And I think those little comments that she's making are her way of trying to ask for help, or at least being like, this is the thing that I'm looking at. And I think what would have been great would have been Giles taking an interest and being like, oh, really? Tell me more about that. Oh, well, in my experience, this would work better. Or in my experience, this is like the dangers that would have happened, as opposed to like trying to chastise her and be like, don't do this, is to talk through all of those things. And what she's doing is she's not directly asking for help, but I think she's been subtly trying to ask for help, and no one's listening to her because all they see is season 1, season 2 Willow, high school Willow, who's like super responsible and she'll get it done and she's level-headed and all of this other stuff. But she has shown you over and over again that she is not that person.
Yeah. Well, and it goes also back to actually our previous episode's conversation where we said that the Watchers and the Watchers Council should have psychological training. I don't think Giles is capable of doing that because he's not trained to do it, and that's not in his nature. Like to see that Willow might need to talk to him or and not to say that Giles doesn't care, but I do think Buffy is just like blocks everything out. Like he's so focused on Buffy
Mm,
that it just doesn't seem to cross his mind to maybe have those conversations with Willow. And even when he calls her out for being irresponsible in something blue and not coming by to do the truth spell, and she's like, I was 2/3 there. I got all the stuff and I just forgot to come by. He's not empathetic to her and what she's
hmm.
going through. So, I like I said, I just don't think that's in his nature. Again, not that he's not kind and caring, but he maybe it's the age difference, maybe it's also gender, but yeah, I think that's some of the places that Giles struggles as well.
I agree with you to some extent, but honestly, I feel like Giles should have been more sympathetic to Willow due to the amount of time that he and Willow spent together. Because they spent a whole lot more time together in the library doing research and all of that stuff, especially in the early days, while Buffy was out patrolling, while Buffy was out fighting and doing all that stuff. They were there together, sort of in the trenches together. So that's why I feel like he trusted her to like do the research part and do all of that stuff. And he was like, "Well, you're a responsible person. You're intelligent, you're responsible, you understand all of these things." And then when it's about her going out and doing things, Buffy's like, "Hey, I need you to do this." It's usually Buffy asking Willow to perform some magic things with a little bit of pushback from Giles, and then both of them being like, "No, we can handle this. It's fine." And then him backing down as opposed to him stepping in and being like, okay, well, then if we're going to do this, this is what we need to do. They kind of do it with Angel's reinstallment spell. They
Hmm.
kind of do that with creating the flame that destroys the box for the mayor. There are some times where it's like, where Giles will be like, okay, well, if this is the choice that we have, then this is what we need to do because these are very dangerous spells, and kind of helps walk through those things, but it doesn't happen enough so that Willa doesn't go off the deep end.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I'm not disagreeing that he should have. What I'm saying is I just for what he's not built that way. And so like when you think about it, if you really look back over the years for all the time that he spent with Willow and Xander, I think he sees them as part of the team, but like he is really only emotionally invested in Buffy. Like he only
Mm,
has those conversations with Buffy, getting her to tell him what happened with Angel because he claims that he has to do the spell to prevent Akatha or whatever from coming back. And the way the lovely conversation he has with her after Angelus turns and he's like, I'm not here to punish you. I'm only here to support you. He never has any conversation like that with Will or Xander. And
right.
he has spent as much time with them as he has Buffy. Like he just doesn't see his role in their life that way.
No, that makes
But I
sense.
agree. I mean, I agree. He should, for particularly like you said, for Willow, to be someone who's in some ways kind of a mentor just by virtue of how much time they spent together. And he's got the education and a little bit of the magic background. It's ridiculous that he never stepped up for her like he did for Buffy.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying now, like in terms of like him not ever having sort of those emotional beats
Right.
with either of them, even though it seems like he should have.
Like we talked about the fact that like, and I get it, it's, taking the real world out of it. Like the fact that he never came for Xander and Anya's wedding. Like, what?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, why would you not come to that wedding?
Right. So, I mean, to me, so all of that to say that just plays into the Giles not stepping up in some way to check the magic use that was going on, particularly with Willow.
There's so many things that went wrong there.
Yeah.
It
So,
didn't, yeah, it just didn't need to happen that way. It
any,
could
oh,
have been
go
so
ahead.
much better. Could have been so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's a fine line walk, because you obviously want drama. That's what drives a show and the story. But like we said, sometimes it would be nice to have a little bit more internal logic
Yeah,
or some voice standing up and saying, "Hey, wait a second. Shouldn't we be checking these people?"
or even the consequences. Like you said,
Right.
like there are no consequences for
Yeah.
magic users in this reality,
Yeah.
other than like Amy getting turned into a rat and the
Right.
consequence of her having to live a life as a rat, although she shouldn't have had to do it because Giles knew the spell to change Amy back because he helped change Buffy back from a rat when Amy did it. So why did he let Amy sit as a rat for the past
Yeah.
3 years?
Well, and to be fair to Amy, that isn't even like consequences she needed to experience. She didn't do
Right.
anything wrong. I mean, she was trying to save herself. So, like, it wasn't like she committed, some magical offense. She was actually burned
Right.
at the stake.
So yes, true. True
So I
indeed.
don't know if she thought as a rat she could turn herself back or that Willow was going to turn her back or, yeah. So, anyway.
Who knows?
Yeah, but I think that makes even more amazing what Tara did in walking away from Willow in season 6. Like that is like
Absolutely.
really the only time Willow got even a taste of consequences. for her misuse of her abuse of magic.
Yeah. That's when we start getting into the whole like addiction storyline of it all, whether you like it or not.
Right,
The real point of that is that Willow, there is consequences to you using magic all the time. And what Tara's saying is like you're using magic as a quick fix for everything. You're trying to make the world to your liking, and that's
right,
not going to work. And what's not going to work is me being with you. And as you keep trying to do this. And that's the only real consequence that she suffers. Does she go dark? Yes. Does she murder someone? Yes. But again, she doesn't go to jail for it. She doesn't get like she even thinks that she's going to get locked up in some mystical prison for the rest of her life or whatever, or
hmm
tortured or something. But no, they rehabilitate her and bring her back into the fold.
And she's not there for that long because they
No,
need her again to fight whatever is from beneath you it devours. So she's only there like what, 4 or 5,
no.
maybe 6 months?
If that, I mean, she's there again, I would say the summer because school is starting back up. So
Right.
she's probably only there for like 3 or 4 months.
Well, it's a
During
little longer than that because that's in May. So we know at least the end of May, June,
June, July,
July,
August.
August, probably September. So yeah,
Okay, so
4 months, you're
four
right.
and a half months, 4.5, maybe 5 months.
True.
But she comes back much sooner than anyone expects because it's like,
Yeah,
what are you doing here? Why are you back already?
right.
It's only after Willow goes dark that we really start to like put together like the consequences of magic and really start looking and exploring that. And now we're in season 7 by the time we even start exploring the ideas of that, even though magic has been a part of the show since episode 3
Right.
of the first season.
Right.
So where like, oh well, she can't be in the magic shop by herself unattended anymore. She was like, I could go to the magic shop with as long as someone's with me, or these little things like that. Yeah,
There should
it's
have been more
there should have
checks and
been
balances
there
and there
should have
should have
been
been
more.
more consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or there should have been places along the way where they
They
could
should
have
have been
stopped
able
her.
to, yeah, they should have been able to stop her before she turned and before
Yeah.
it got to that point.
Right.
And the fact that they didn't, I mean, and again, they sort of recognize it in hindsight that there were all, Xander was dealing with the wedding, Buffy was dealing with, you
Being
know,
pulled out of
pull
heaven.
out of heaven. Even that, like the fact that you all are doing something, that the four of you decided to do something that you were like, we can't tell Giles about this. Why can't we tell Giles about this? Because Giles would be like, you cannot do this. This is a bad, bad idea. You don't tell Dawn for a similar reason, but the reason why you keep it secret is because you know it's not right.
The fact that like it is not called out enough, not talked about enough, there's no consequences for them. The fact that the Slayer line is threatened
Hmm.
because they resurrected Buffy, and
Right.
that there is, other than Tara being killed, which you could maybe argue is a life for a life payment,
Yeah.
none of them face the consequences that they should for the fact that they basically almost let the first evil free.
Unless
Ooh,
new thought
okay.
unlocked, new thought unlocked, maybe a hot take, I don't know, unless everything that happens to them is the consequence for them casting the spell. Anya and Xander's breakup, Tara's death, and Willow going evil is
Mhm.
all the mystical consequence of them casting that resurrection spell, which feels like minimal. But in that spell, she has to sacrifice something innocent, which is the deer,
Right.
which then equates to Tara on
Mm.
a larger scale. And these dark magics flowing through her ends up being Dark Willow.
Basically, you're saying it's karma.
Yeah, it's just all of this stuff coming back to them. So maybe
Yeah,
those are the consequences that they have, but it's not really played out that like it's not like
right,
played out like when they bring Buffy back and the Traveler comes and they're like, well,
right.
this is a direct consequence
Correct.
to this magical action, but maybe it is a more of a karmic retribution for them coming back.
Well, what do you think? Let us know. Do you think Charles is great? Season 6 is basically the karmic payback for the resurrection spell. We'd love to know your thoughts. You can email us at abuffypodcast@gmail.com, and you can find us on all the social media at a Buffy podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see
Bye.
you then. Bye.